Is lying always wrong? Is it okay to lie sometimes? Last time we talked about politicians lying. What about everyday life? What about when your wife asks you if she looks good in this dress? Is it okay to lie then?
The nature of lies. Intent versus truth. Welcome to Into the Desert, exploring the wilderness of ideas. Don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you'd like to support our channel and our mission of encouraging discussion, not division, please join us on Patreon. The link is in the description. So in our previous video, we talked about lies and how our politicians are constantly accusing each other of lying, and that's probably not what's really going on there. But I wanted to talk a little bit more about what is a lie from a personal perspective, from a moral perspective. And the first thing that comes to my head is the 10 Commandments. Thou shalt not lie. But what does that mean? Does that mean that we're going to go to hell if I tell someone who's dying that they're going to be okay, everything's going to be okay? Am I lying? Am I committing a sin? Elgin, what are your thoughts?
Well, the previous video we gave the definition of a lie is anything said with the intent to deceive. And here, intent is the big issue. It actually clarifies a lot of things, but it also causes a lot of other problems. If you define a lie as something that is not factually true, well, that makes it a very, very simple definition. You say it's sunny outside, you look out the window and it's not sunny. Okay, that's very clearly not factually true. The problem is we say things that are not factually true all the time, but we're not intending to deceive anybody. We are mistaken. We're not lying. And there's a difference between a mistake and a lie. So when you come to the issues like, what do you say to someone who's dying? Or again, intent is a big issue. What are you really intending to do? Are you intending to deceive them, right? Or are you intending them to comfort them and make their final moments a comfort? I would say that, trying to comfort somebody is not a lie. It's trying to comfort somebody. You may not be factually true, but that's the thing about lies. It's an attempt to deceive as opposed to being factually correct or factually wrong. So,
but where do we mark that line of deceit, right? There's a episode of The Good Place where one of the side characters buys these really ugly red boots, right? And he asks his friend, what does he think about these beautiful red boots that he got? Because they were just these wonderful boots and they were really expensive. And of course, the character Chidi, he lies and says that he likes them. Well, he was kind of trying to deceive him, but it was more of he didn't really want to hurt his friend's feelings, and he didn't, I don't know, it's one of those very murky situations.
Well, that's the other side of this definition, is whereas in some respects it's very clear, in other respects it gets very murky. We generally know ourselves whether we're deceiving somebody. It's kind of hard to deceive somebody without knowing that you're actually trying to deceive them. When we look at what somebody else is doing, not always very clear. Are they trying to deceive, or are they just making a mistake? So the whole definition of anything said with the intent to deceive is very clear for the person doing the deception. Because when if you try to deceive somebody, if you may be telling them something that's completely true, but if you're doing it in such a way so they don't find out about something that you're deceiving them, you're deceiving them. You're not giving them the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. You're shading the truth or slanting the truth with an intent to deceive. So on the one hand, it makes it very clear for you to know whether you're lying or not. On the other hand, it makes it very difficult for someone looking at you to know what you're doing, because they don't know your thoughts. They don't know your intentions. When you want to follow the commandment on not lying, it's pretty easy for you to do that. Just don't deceive anybody. But if you're trying to judge somebody else and what they're trying to do, that's a whole different issue.
And what about like exaggerations, right? the exaggerating to prove a point.
Well, exaggeration is a rhetorical device, and you can exaggerate for a lot of reasons. You can exaggerate to brag, right? Right, you're great. You're the best baseball player, whoever, that's exaggerating. On the other hand, you can exaggerate to drive home a point. If you're exaggerating because you're trying to emphasize how much something is, that's, is it technically correct? No, but it is a legitimate form of rhetoric. Yeah, it's a legitimate form of rhetoric. And we can all probably know politicians who that's what they do. They run on exaggeration. There's certain politicians, if they say something, I know it's not probably factually true, but they're probably just saying it for emphasis purposes, or they may believe it's true, and because they just tend to think of that way. But it's not the same as someone deliberately attempting to deceive you. So a deception, again, pretty easy when you're doing it. It's really hard to judge somebody else doing it.
Yeah, because in the end, who knows what the other intent is? I think one of our biggest issues is we tend to read in intent. So like when we were talking about our politicians and we were talking about how, they use their confirmation bias to tell their side of the story, they're not necessarily doing it with the intent to deceive. They're usually doing it as in, this is how I see the world, and I want you to see the world the way I do. So let me lay it all out for you as, in a court case to say, see, I'm right because I laid this all out, even though there's a lot of holes in what they're doing. They're not trying to deceive you. They're trying to present a point. They're trying to help you understand the way they see things. And if we put the intent that, well, no, you're just trying to be evil and you're just lying, that's not necessarily the right way. And so when we have our personal interactions, again, we can't put our intent on other people. You have to assume the best.
Well, that's a good way to do it. By the way, this is a well-known issue. It's one of the reasons perjury is so difficult to demonstrate in a courtroom. It may seem very, very clear that person is lying because they're not telling the truth, but are they lying? Are they really intending to deceive? Deception is difficult because it's an internal motivation. And it's hard for us to know what other people are actually doing. So it is a difficult thing to prove in a court of law. So, and probably should be, as I think we use the term lying way too much. Most of what we call lies are, like you said, they're maybe hyperbole, exaggerations, maybe they're just mistaken. Lots of people are mistaken. We all have things we believe that are not true. The problem is we
I'm
don't
always right. I never have any false beliefs.
Yeah. The problem is we don't know which of those beliefs are false and which are not, which is why it's so important to talk to people. But it gets really hard to talk to people if every time you say something that's not factually correct, the person accuses you of lying. That makes for a very short conversation and a very hostile conversation.
Well, and then there's the old proverb, and I know it's kind of a little biased towards you men, but, happy wife is a happy life. If your wife asks you, does this dress make me look fat? You just say no, right? You don't look, you don't think about it, you don't contemplate your answer. You just say no because you want to keep your wife happy.
Well, that's usually early on. I'm lucky enough to reach the point in my marriage that, if my wife doesn't look good, I let her know. And she knows I let her know. And therefore, she actually trusts me even more. I'm not sure that's a good advice for, year one of marriage. But my motivation isn't to deceive her. It's not your red boots situation where you're actually wanting her to be ridiculed. And so you're going to lie to her and tell her she looks wonderful so that when she goes out in public, other people will be laughing at her. It's actually, you have their best interests at heart. Are you trying to deceive them to make them look bad, or are you trying to boost their ego or give them more confidence? Or, again, easy for you to know why you're doing it, difficult for others.
Tell us what you think in the comments. What do you think a lie is? Do you agree that it's something that is meant to deceive? Or is it something more broad? Is it anything that's not truthful? Let us know what you think down in the comments. We do read your comments and respond to many. And if you've made it this far in the video, please consider watching one of our other videos and joining us on Patreon. Thank you again for watching Into the Desert, exploring the wilderness of ideas.